Huh. This is unusual. I'm over at Shaking My Head Productions on Vimeo, 2020 Vision, The Unholy Alliance Exposed. And it's about a little over an hour, not bad. I'm trying to get through it. And there's some really important stuff you need to know. This guy, I don't think he's one of them. I think this guy is true blue, and I think he's very hardcore gospel oriented. And his thing, his shtick that he does that really works for him is he takes a compilation of many like-minded, similar content, similar ideas, similar issues, and he kind of grafts them together, if you will, into one cohesive piece of the puzzle. That he puts together frequently is attacked by a certain entity. Oh, I don't know, rhymes with MooTube, and he's just got some really cutting edge stuff here. This is really important. So we're just going to look at a little bit of it, but I will make sure and put the link down below so that you can go check this full thing out. One other thing that I want to say before I start rolling this forward here. Well, he also has this one right here. This one is really, really, really significant and important. And much of it I've already seen. But the way that he will retake things and splice them together almost kind of gives it new context, new breadth, new concern, new consideration. And when you have all of these things being done together that we've talked about. So I'm not going to lay a groundwork for that. Just I invite you to please go tour the channel, especially the top loaded videos, to kind of get an idea of what has been happening in this last couple months, and specifically the events that are happening here in September, how they're all coalescing, coming together because they are building this new world order. And you might go, well, they've been doing that for a long time. Right. But now they're at the end of that. Right. So my husband and I are just talking about how if there was one thing that the church and the people and the Christians and could be doing to improve and to reflect the true nature of where we are in space and time and what the Messiah has called us to do, Jesus, is to take the urgency and bump it up. Get it up there. Now, I know that there are people who will say that we don't know anything. We're just lost in the Gentile world. We don't know anything. It could be another 100 or 1,000 years before the Lord. That is actually not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that we are walking forward, that God has a plan, that God uses the feasts to tell us what is happening because we're simple. Not because He's simple, but because we are. No, it's not putting God in a box. It is God taking a very important matter and making sure that His people are exposed to this plan of the ages and the feasts. I talk about that ad nauseum in my videos. But this is the thing. You have to understand that when you are at the tail end of walking up to the commencing of God's will that He has dictated and put out to you in Revelation, that He's very clear about when He talks about the season, He's talking about a feast day. He's not talking about what Gentiles say, oh, maybe in the next 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, 12 months, whenever. That's not what God is talking about. And I will say this, that every day is a day closer, not farther away. And there is a campaign to brainwash people to do the exact opposite of what I'm saying. Instead of being, red alert, high level, paying attention, urgency, making sure the gospel is going out and that people are on the ark, meaning born again in Jesus Christ, there is this lulling people to sleep. Oh, we've got forever because we don't have, we're evil and we're sinful, and so only God knows everything. And true, God knows everything, but everything's in ambiguity. We don't know anything. Well, who told you that? Did the Bible tell you that? So you can't use Hebrews 10:25 that says we will see the day approaching and then use that to the opposite meaning, that we can't know anything. Therefore, we can't know anything because we're just little human creations and God is God and we can't put Him in a box. Well, God has articulated His plans, but if we don't understand what the Bible from the Hebrews about a Hebrew Messiah means, we're not going to catch on to what's going on. And our urgency needs to be at, the highest level to help those who are unsaved. Having said all that, this type of work that I so respect that Shaking My Head Productions, he has 2 channels, does helps to get people the most critical, important information that you need to know so that you can understand that we are at the tail end of these things. I don't know if it will elapse this year, but based on the things that I am seeing, it almost looks like from the intent of these people, they could potentially be launching, letting loose their messiah that they have crafted, this AI cyborg. So let's see what else they're doing with robots, getting us used to this stuff, because there's some shocking stuff here.
To thank UniCredit. It is an important moment for humanity as well as for artificial intelligence and robots in general. I cannot wait to start shopping for my first holiday, said Sophia at the event. Also, Sophia was the first robot to be granted a visa and speak with a president. That president was Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev during the robots' stopover in the Caucasus region. It took just 2 minutes to give Sophia a visa due to some smart technology. Now obviously all these things are like a publicity stunt, but make no mistake, they are conditioning people to accept AI, robots and transhumanism, and it's only going to escalate from here on out. Folks, first off, it's important that you actually know that you are saved, that you have Jesus Christ as your Lord and Saviour. Study your Bibles, read them for yourselves, get some sound teaching and pray for God to show you what's really going on.
But barely reported in the media was that after the third presidential debate, Clinton and Trump went out for a night on the town together, and where they went is of great interest. They went to an annual Jesuit function, which is usually full of New World Order types. One of the more interesting things that occurred right at the end of the Jubilee year in early October was that the Jesuits installed a new Superior General, with the date to commence being actually at midnight on the end of Jubilee. At the beginning of the Al Smith dinner party, after Cardinal Dolan was introduced, a joke was even made by a speaker.
Without the amazing support of the many devoted Catholics on stage. You know, Catholics like Henry Kissinger, Howard Rubinstein.
Henry Kissinger, Howard Rubinstein, and Mort Zuckerman, all of whom are obviously Jewish, so this remark was naturally met with a lot of laughter. In fact, an extraordinary amount of controversy swirls around Jesuits. They are said to constitute the Black Church and thus adhere to the same satanic religion as the world elite bankers supposedly hold. The leader of the Jesuit order is commonly recognized as the Black Pope, whose signature staff is a crooked cross. Historically, the Jesuit order has been seen as one that shirks no crime in expanding the power of the Church. Lest this sound entirely outrageous, one must note that the Jesuits are, for instance, the inventors of concentration camps, which they established in Paraguay in order to incarcerate and then torture the native Indians of the area. But the litany of attributed Jesuit evil is even darker than that, according to those who believe in the order's continued malicious pursuit. The supposed founder of the Bavarian-based Illuminati, Adam Weishaupt, was a Jesuit. In fact, the order is reputed to have been deeply involved in the Illuminati's initial expansion, and chances are it is still deeply involved. One more thing that highlights the evil of the Jesuits is their extreme oath of induction, which all superiors must take in order to be elevated to the higher rungs of the organization. This quote is taken from the book Subterranean Rome by Carlos Didier, translated from the French, and published in New York in 1843, and reads in part, "Promise and declare that I will, when opportunity present, make and wage relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, as I am directed to do, to extirpate and exterminate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, and that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, and crush their infants' heads against the walls, in order to annihilate forever their race. That's when the same cannot be done openly. I will secretly use the poisoned cup, the strangulating cord, the steel of the poniard, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed to do so by any agent of the Pope or superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Society of Jesus. When evaluating Jesuit behavior and influence, please keep in mind that both Donald Trump and Hillary's VP, Tim Kaine, are Jesuit educated. And it should be of great interest, therefore, that practically on the eve of the U.S. election, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton partied the night away at a Jesuit function that included such prominent Jesuit-trained attendees as Henry Kissinger.
Yes.
Not only did the two not look like sworn enemies, they looked like two star-crossed lovers going to their first prom.
Living in a time and age that we never thought possible before. And we've got to come together, not only as a nation, but as a world community.
World community. World community.
Hi there, my name is Alan Lamont. This video is an explanation of why I do believe that Pope Francis is the Black Pope, the superior Jesuit general, called by Jesuits the Father General. The general of the Jesuits is elected for life.
Wow.
But over the last few decades, we've saw two generals resign. We have Pedro Rope resigned before Hans Kovenbach was positioned as the Black Pope. Then he resigned in 2008 for Father Adolfo Nicolas from Spain to be elected as the Superior General of the Society of Jesus by the 35th Congregation of the Jesuit Curie in Rome. Now if you go on the Jesuit website called the Jesuit Curie in Rome, I'll put this page on so you can see it now. It's called the House of the Superior General. And on the left there at the bottom you will see an article for Pope Francis. On the 31st of July 2013, quote, "It was a historical moment for all Jesuits in Italy and around the world." Now why was it historic?
Why?
I'll explain that, but let me continue this quotation. It was a historical moment for all Jesuits in Italy and around the world to have Pope Francis presiding over the feast day Mass of St. Ignatius of Loyola. The spectacular view of more than 200 Jesuits from Italy, along with Father General and his council members, concelebrating with the Pope, and over 600 religious and lay collaborators participating in this event. Now, we have today a very unusual situation. We've entered a time that we've never entered before in regard to the Jesuit order.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back to 2008, Peter Hans Kovenbach was the Jesuit general of the Jesuit order. He was the superior general of the Society of Jesus. He resigned, supposedly, according to reasons of ill health. And then Father Adolfo Nicolas Pachin was positioned to be the superior general of the Jesuits. That's in 2008. And so with everyone looking at the Jesuits over the last few years, exposing the fact that they do control the New World Order, they're behind the Vatican, they're behind the One World Government, they're behind all of these interlocking groups that govern the New World Order. It's the Jesuits that have global governance. They control the One World Government. And the Jesuits realized that eventually people would be aware of this, because they're positioning their presidents and prime ministers.
Right, and I would say that from a people management standpoint, that there is a level of looking at the two beasts of Revelation that we talk about. One is the false prophet, and he collects the people into a union of sorts to then go under and worship the other beast, who is the Antichrist, which is why then you have Shapira and that whole network of people, not rabbi, I'm sorry, well, Kufi people, the religious right people, Trump and Mark Biltz, many others, WorldNet Daily, so many people who are all trying to get everybody underneath the Jewish Antichrist. So that's how that works.